Welcome into the October 24th episode of the Lockdown Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. The Maple Leafs victorious in Winnipeg. The power play came alive. John Tavares plotting not one, but two goals on the man advantage. We'll break it all down and tee up tonight's game against the Golden Knights, where one former Maple Leaf will do something pretty special against his former team. I'll explain in a bit. All that more coming up on today's edition of Lockdown Leafs.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Leafs podcast, one-stop shop for all things Leafs. I'm your host, Mike DiStefano from TSN 1050 Toronto Radio, also known as Al's brother on TSN's Overdrive and TSN 1050's Leafs Lunch. Joining me is my co-host, Dave Morassutti from Sportsnet, also writer for the NHLPA. Locked On Leafs is a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast, so be sure to subscribe for free wherever you get your podcast from. You can also now catch us up on video format. Just search us up on YouTube. That's Locked On Leafs on YouTube. Hit subscribe to get new content each and every day, Monday through Friday. 5 new episodes a week. Nice win Saturday night, Dave. We'll kind of break it all down and then also help tee up tonight's game against the Golden Knights. But we knew it was going to be a physical game. Sheldon Keefe knew it was going to be a physical game. That's why we saw all the new lineup changes. And I mean, I think it was the right call based on how things kind of played out. Big 4-1 dub, Maple Leafs over the Winnipeg Jets. And it was nice to see.
Yeah, I think my favorite moment had to be the Wayne Simmonds goal, because literally he was just brought in to kind of police things, make sure things didn't get out of hand. He's like, nah, I'm just going to go between the legs for an assist.
So we're going to like Zegras this, right? Where it's called the Zegras goal, but really it was Sonny Milano. And now instead of giving David Kampf love, we're going to call it the Wayne Simmonds goal. Is that what we're doing here, Dave?
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, okay. Great pass, great play. I don't know if he even knew what he was doing, if he meant to make that pass or what happened. I don't know, but it ended up in the back of the net like 3 seconds later. So kudos to you. Good job, Wayne Simmonds. And he will actually end up with a second consecutive game. Looks like he's going to stick in the lineup when they play Vegas tonight. But overall, like when I look at that game, when I think about it, to me, I think that was the most complete effort that we've seen from the Maple Leafs so far this season. I thought the forwards played pretty well. I thought the blue line was pretty stable. And then Ilya Samsonov was a rock star. I thought clearly that the special teams were plus on Saturday night. I think from start to finish, were there a couple lulls where the Jets started to get a little bit of momentum? Sure, that's going to happen. But for the most part, I thought that was the Leafs' most complete victory, most complete game that they've played so far this season.
You saw the effort, right? Especially from the top line. Like that first period was just whenever the puck was on a stick, get it on net.
Yes.
Get it on net.
Yes.
Like, you and I were talking about this even during the game, like, oh, they're actually like trying to get the puck on the net this time and not trying to do those extra little dipsy moves to try to,
Was it on this show? Was it on this show Friday, or was I on Leafs Lunch where I was talking about how annoyed I was getting for the Leafs? They were just being
on this show.
Yeah, it was on this show, right? They're just trying to look for the perfect play. They're being too patient and then trying to hold on for an extra second to maybe see if a better shot could come. And I'm like, just shoot the puck. Just shoot the puck. And if you end up creating a rebound, then someone can jump on that. But maybe you could get a tip play or something, but just put the puck on net and see what happens. And they were doing that right from the get-go, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was just, this in this game, the atmosphere too, right? Leafs and Jets fans were really getting into it. I just felt like it kind of brought out a different side of the Leafs in this one. I mean, I think they realized that they were going to need a better effort in order to beat the Jets, right? The Jets were not going to be an easy out. Sure, they only scored 1 goal in the game, but that's also a lot to do with what Ilya Samsonov did. And, the Jets just not able to convert on their chances either.
Oh, yeah. And Samsonov 4-0 to start the season so far, sub 2 goals against, like a 938 save percentage. He's been just everything you could possibly want in a goaltender so far on the season. We'll get to Samsonov a little bit longer, Samsonov a little bit more when we do our 3 stars, I would assume, David, wink, wink. But something that I actually want to chat about really quickly is Morgan Rielly. How much did you love seeing Morgan Rielly sticking up for Nick Robertson, man? Didn't even bat an eye. The second Josh Morrissey blew up Robertson, took liberties at him, a little bit of a high hit to the head in a way. Rielly, I don't think so. Not to our young
He,
cat, the guy who led us to our
he
last
didn't even
victory.
think twice.
Oh no, he jumped him and he fed him. So I really appreciated the fight there and the emotion out of Morgan Rielly with that one.
Morgan Rielly's been taking a little criticism to start season. And, he hasn't been the best defensively.
I think he's been on the ice for like 8 goals so far this year.
But you realize why this guy is kind of like a heart and soul type of player for this team. He didn't even hesitate. He was coming in full steam ahead.
Yeah.
When you say, and there was that one replay that they show where gloves were off, like he was like 7 feet before even like getting to the guy, and his gloves were off. Like he was committed full stop. Didn't matter. It could have been like Logan Stanley, who is like a massive human being on the Jets. It wouldn't matter. Morgan Rielly was going to be dropping the gloves no matter what. And like that commitment, that just it just shows, you know what? The Leafs have been criticized for not doing this at times when like a star player or a big player gets like hit or questionable hit and no one really sticks up for them. That was something that I think was sorely missed. And I love that Morgan Rielly did. Yeah, you don't necessarily want Morgan Rielly to be fighting all the time, but that's the perfect time when you're going to do it.
Yeah, and I can't help but feel like there was a message sent by the coach when he opted to put Kyle Clifford and Wayne Simmons into this game. A message that said this is going to be a physical game. We need to live up to the expectations. We need to live up to their physicality, and we got a counterpunch. And I can't help but think that's kind of also what was going through Morgan Rielly's mind, where he's just like, you know what, this is the type of game tonight's going to be. All right, I'm going for it. Gloves off, boom, goes after Josh Morrissey. I thought that was just fantastic. I thought the power play after us really bagging on it on Friday did get their stuff together, scored 2 power play goals. Note, Rasmus Sandin was on the ice for one, and what happened? He gets a point shot through, rebound comes out, pass over to Tavares, and boom, JT's able to score another one on the power play. So we kind of got to see Sandin on PP1 because Rielly was already, it was right after the fight, actually. So Rielly was already in the locker room, so he wasn't able to be out there. So they had to put Sandin out there. But we kind of saw a glimpse at what that means. Like guys who can get pucks through on net, create a rebound, maybe a deflection in front. I'm telling you, I don't hate the idea of Rasmus Sandin getting a little more power play time, PP1.
It also, spares Rielly a few of his minutes as well. I know like power play time is usually when, the star players are like giddy and are like just ready to hop off the bench. But it's nice to give Rasmus Sandin those opportunities once in a while. He doesn't necessarily have to get all the time on PP1. Like, Sheldon Keefe has been willing to mix things around, move things around. I don't mind that, if let's say that top unit is struggling and they want to stay out there and Keith just decides, let's do a swap of Rielly and Sandin. Like that could easily work too. I also just like Tavares, like his presence in that like bumper in front of the net. Like that's his spot. He showed that's where he needs to be. That's where his chances needs to come from. Cause I don't know if there's any Leaf that's better in close.
No, there's not many guys in the league that are better within 5 feet of the net than John Tavares. Like that guy's made a career out of being right out in the inner slot like that.
Yeah, because he's just such a strong player, especially with his stick. Like, it's so hard to knock that. Like, as soon as that puck's on a stick, good luck trying to get it away from him. He's just too strong. He's got too many moves. And how tight that angle was to get that first goal on Hellebuck. Like, that's one that's usually easily stopped by a goaltender just because they would have the angle. They would have the better angle to stop it. I give JT, like, when your power play is struggling, don't mess up those opportunities in front of the net. And credit to him for bearing it.
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing that I want to talk about before we get into our 3 stars and before we get into the Vegas game that's going to be going down tonight, Auston Matthews didn't score, did get 3 helpers. I think he's close though. Like, this was the first game where this guy seemed like he was as dangerous as he was a year ago. And he just healing one-timers, not quite getting them, or he was shooting it just wide. And I think he's just a bit off, but at some point these are going to start going in. He had 13 shot attempts in this game the other day, 13 shot attempts, only 4 of which landed on net. 5 of them missed the net. These are going to start hitting the net and hitting the back of the net, tickle the twine. I think Matthews is about to erupt, which is a great sign for the Maple Leafs. Didn't quite, obviously get on the scoreboard this game, but I think it's about to come. I did want to just make that quick note. Is there anything else you want to mention on that, or you want to head to our 3 stars?
Let's head to our 3 stars. I do want to dive into that a little bit more, but I want to put it in a little tease of maybe where that's going to land in our 3 stars.
All right, so we'll get to our 3 stars of the game from Toronto's 4-1 win over the Jets on Saturday night, and then we'll also tee up tonight's game, Leafs in Vegas. It's a late one, 10 p.m. puck drop, and a special former Maple Leaf could do something special tonight. I'll let you know what that is in a sec as well. Before we move on, though, let me tell you guys about one of today's show sponsors, and that's SimpliSafe. The numbers don't lie. In the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen SimpliSafe home security to protect their home. You don't earn the trust of that many people without doing something right. At SimpliSafe, your safety is the only thing that matters. I know because I use SimpliSafe in my own home. They protect you with cutting-edge security technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back. With 24/7 professional monitoring, SimpliSafe agents call you the moment a threat is detected and dispatch police or first responders in an emergency, even if you're not home or can't be reached. SimpliSafe blankets your home in protection with advanced sensors for every room to detect motion that only alert you when the threat is real, and even hazard sensors that instantly detect fires, floods, and even threats to your home. Our monitoring experts use proprietary advanced response technology to visually confirm when a break-in is real so you can get the highest priority police dispatch. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at SimpliSafe.com/LockedOnNHL and save 20% on your SimpliSafe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month completely free. Visit SimpliSafe.com/LockedOnNHL to learn more. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano. We got Dave Morassutti with me as well. We're hosts here at the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leafs podcast. So make sure that you are subscribed if you're watching on YouTube. And if you are listening via audio form, make sure you also are subscribed to us wherever you get your podcast from. Let's get to our 3 stars from Saturday night. 4-1 win from Toronto. There was probably a lot of people that probably could have been given the 3 stars. I thought that there was a bunch of players that played really well. But who did you have? We'll start with the 3rd star of the night from you.
Auston Matthews. We were talking about how all the chances he had on that. I honestly thought he was going to break a stick in this game just because there were chances where I'm like, Matthews is going to score right here, or this is going to be a great shot, great chance on that. There was that one where he made that power move to get in front of the Jets defender almost in alone on Hellebuck, backhander, and it went wide. And
I don't know why I didn't take that right to the net and cut across. That seemed like that should have been the move there from Matthews, but
Unless he just thought that, the backhand was going to give him the better angle. I don't know. But that was a play there that says, yeah, Auston Matthews is he's starting to get that feeling back of what we expect from Auston Matthews. I do think the goals are going to come for him. He did lead the team with 4 shots on goal. So he's very much in the play right there. He's not relying too much on just rush attempts, right? He's doing all the right things. At least he got the assists. I will say that. At least he's getting points.
3 apples, nothing to sneeze at. That's for sure.
That keeps the score. That keeps the stat sheet in a good spot. Obviously, we want to see him get the goals. I do think the goals are coming. He's going to get lots of opportunities. I think this what he loves. He loves playing on the West Coast. I think he's going to enjoy these next few games there.
I think you will as well. I think you will too. I knew you were going to put Auston Matthews in your 3 stars, so I left him out of mine. That's why I want to give him that special shout out before we went to break. I need to give a special shout out though to the 4th line, because I know that there are some people out there that still don't like the fact that Kyle Clifford and Wayne Simmonds are put into the lineup, and don't like the fact that they're going to continue to play for Toronto tonight against the Vegas Golden Knights. I saw some people in the Discord not too happy about about what the lineup is going to look like. We'll explain in a moment who is coming out, but it's neither of those two guys. That 4th line is going to remain the same. And I got to tell you, I don't hate it. I mean, they outshot Winnipeg 5-1 when that trio was out there at 5-on-5, a team high 86% expected goals. And they're playing like Mark Scheifele and like Kyle Connor and just like kind of pinning them in the offensive zone. Like over 4 minutes of their 6+ minutes at 5-on-5 was against the Scheifele Connor line, and they had a positive shot share and expected goals. So honestly, I thought the 4th line was great. They brought the physicality that, we all kind of wanted to see out of them. Did they drop the mitts and did they actually fight? No, but I don't think that they necessarily had to do any of that. But you had a couple of hits out of David Kampf. You ended up with a couple of hits out of Kyle Clifford and 3 hits out of Wayne Simmonds throughout the night. So that's 7 hits from that line. They brought some element of physicality. They did score a goal. Fun stat, the team is undefeated when David Kampf scores a goal. Undefeated when David Kampf puts one in the back of the net. So let's get this guy the puck a little more often. How about we? One thing that I noted, though, that was kind of interesting, that it makes a lot of sense, though, based on who those guys are, Clifford and Wayne Simmonds. So prior to this game, the 4th line pretty much banished into defensive zone starts. Not a single D zone start throughout this entire game. They had 5 zone starts. I think 3 of them were in the neutral zone, 2 of them in the offensive zone. So I think that also is notable, that it kind of makes them change up what they're doing, and it makes the 4th line, or it allows that 4th line at least, to not be as much a liability as it had been over the last few games. So that's something I also thought was interesting. So giving the 4th line as a 3rd star from Saturday night.
Yeah, you know what? Like, the only criticism I was going to give to the 4th line is that Kyle Clifford's still doing that thing where he's taking dumb penalties. And yes, I would very much like for him to not take dumb penalties or get in the box, because when you're put on the 4th line, the one thing you don't want to do is get in the box, because you don't get many opportunities to get on the ice, and you can't be spending your time on the ice in the penalty box. That was my only criticism of that line. And there was that stat where Wayne Simmonds and Kyle Clifford assisted on a goal together for the first time since 2011. I'm just like, right, they used to be teammates on the LA Kings.
Yeah.
Like, just to think about how like kind of all comes full circle, and like those are good. How old they are, and like that their careers kind of span quite a
long time.
Yeah.
Your 2nd star, Dave.
My 2nd star is John Tavares.
Yeah, makes sense.
Like, when you scored 2 goals, you're gonna get a star from me.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense, I would say. And I mean, I went a little broader on mine because I like to cheat that way. I just gave it to the special teams, right? They went 2 for 3 on the power play, perfect 3 for 3 on the penalty kill. John Tavares scoring both of those goals, which is exactly what he needs to do in order to remain, effective. And I thought that they were fantastic. Matthews, 2 of his 3 assists coming on the power play. And we had already talked about Sandin getting his opportunity up on the top unit, which I thought that he played well. And then the penalty kill, 3 for 3 and had a couple of opportunities, even shorthanded to do a little bit. So I thought the special teams kind of, nice wake up call after a couple of tough games, especially from that power play, for them to come out and zip the puck around the way they did, to score, find the back of the net, get so many opportunities. I mean, Matthews probably could have had 2 or 3, like if he would have really connected on a couple of those one-timers on the power play, probably would have scored a goal or two himself before Johnny Hockey got his goal, or Johnny Toronto rather got his goals. But a little shout out to the special teams units as my second star. Does that leave Ilya Samsonov as the number 1 star for both of us, Dave?
I mean, Ilya Samsonov, because now we have to go back to doing it that way. I'm still getting used to that. But
which sucks, because I was Samsonov his entire career, and then all of a sudden he's in Toronto, and the media is like, no, Toronto, actually, the Maple Leafs PR said, oh, it's Samsonov, and then he says, no, it's Samsonov. It's like, oh,
make up your minds.
Just got used to saying Samsonov, and now I need to go and try and erase that and go back to Samsonov. But anyways, this guy's been elite, and he was fantastic in the game against the Winnipeg Jets. And he's just so poised in the net. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like there's no panic. Like, I remember there was one play in particular where he was pulled out of his net, kind of lost control a little bit, lost his balance, but then gathered himself and regained positioning so quick that Winnipeg wasn't even able to do anything. Literally they couldn't do anything off of that opportunity there, because he did it so fast. No panic. It was great. He made 30 of 31 saves in the game, stopped 9 of 10 high danger chances, which was a big issue last year with the goaltending. I think Jack Campbell had, second or third worst high danger save percentage in the NHL last year among qualified goaltenders. So it was really nice to see Samsonov able to make those difficult saves. Hopefully, he doesn't have to face 10 a game. Be nice, get a little tighter defensively. But it was good to see, and ended up having a 1.98 goals saved above expected when all said and done too. So nearly saved 2 goals above expectation in this hockey game. Ilya Samsonov was fantastic and well-deserved first star.
Yeah, he was making the unorthodox saves, which, shows a little bit of his athleticism, but just also some very calm saves, especially like that first goal. A little annoying to see going just because of the rebound opportunity.
Yeah.
But
I'll even give that like again, that was a high danger chance, right? Right in the inner slot rebound. Someone's got to box him out there.
Exactly.
Someone's got to clear the puck there, right? Like the defense just needs to be better on that play. They didn't help him out at all.
Yeah, like that was the main problem I had on it. It wasn't really him, because you had a chance to kind of, to clear the in front of the net, but those are some big bodies. That's kind of the bread and butter of the Jets there. But I just thought that after that, like there's a calmness to him when you see him on the ice, and you just see, oh, here comes the Jets chance, and like, no, he's just gonna be frustrating to play against, because it's just he makes it look easy, especially those in tight chances.
Mm-hmm.
He really has those locked down, and I think the best thing is you're not really seeing him get beat too much from far, those point shots, or just teams aren't really trying to beat him. They're trying to beat him close, up and in those high danger areas, and it's just not really going their way right now. And I'm not hitting that.
No, he's been terrific. They did have a couple of gaffes, misplayed the puck a couple of times. So maybe the puck handling it behind the goal could use a little bit of work, but when he's in the crease at the very least, inside the blue paint there, he's been spectacular, fantastic so far this season. So definitely, hopefully that continues into tonight's game against the Vegas Golden Knights. And with that, why don't we take one more quick break, Dave? When we get back, let's kind of go over tonight's game against Vegas, help tee it up, and talk about a very special thing that could happen tonight for our old friend, Phil Kessel. We'll be right back here on the Locked On Leafs podcast. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. It's a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast. So if you have not subscribed and you are enjoying the episode today, it's your first time joining us, hopefully you do subscribe and you've enjoyed what we've had to say. The Leafs are back in Vegas tonight, hoping to keep the good vibes rolling off that victory against the Winnipeg Jets, looking for their third straight of the year, hoping to keep the road trip vibes, all systems go. But Vegas is a tough building to play in. It's a tough team. The Vegas flu is very real, and they're a good team, right? This is a great team so far. They've got tremendous offense. They've got a great blue line, and they've got that kid in net, Logan Thompson, who's been spectacular so far to start the year. So this is going to be a difficult matchup. Two teams who certainly have high aspirations, I believe. But I'm looking forward to it. But one cool thing that will happen tonight, assuming, he's kept in bubble wrap until puck drop, Phil Kessel will tie Keith Yandle's Ironman streak tonight against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Ain't that something?
Let's just say if this is an optional team skate, Phil Kessel's not going to be there. That's number one. He is going to be... He is probably going to be, just considering what he did just to keep this streak together. Remember when he was in Toronto last season, and he's just like,
he had a baby the game before. Yeah, I think it was the game before he had he left. His wife was in labor, played a shift, went home, had the baby, and then joined the team back in Toronto the next day, like the day after the birth of his child, to make sure that the streak remained intact.
Or it could have been the reverse. I think he, like, right after the game, like after that shift, he was gone.
No, it wasn't against Toronto. It was the game before Toronto.
No, you're right. No, you're right. I think it was Florida. Might have been Florida.
I can't recall who it was against, but
I remember he was getting some grief on the bench too. Everybody kind of knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And like,
he went skated shift. I think he got a shot on goal actually, and then skated off, and like legitimately they had a plane ready for him.
Which I'm a little surprised Arizona, putting
I was also surprised on that. But anyway, kept it alive, and he can tie Yandle's streak tonight, which I think is pretty cool, and then beat it in their next game, obviously. Mm-hmm. But Phil Kessel, his time in Toronto was not the best, to quote Louis Domingue. Like, the team's success never came. I guess they had the one playoff, really, like 2013 was the only time Phil Kessel was in the playoffs while they were with Toronto, right? So there, Kessel's whole tenure in Toronto, probably a black cloud in a way, just because there's no team success. But he was always a fun character, and he was always a great player, like 30 to 35 goal scorer. And he's still a decent little player, to be honest with you. And he's on the line right now with Jack Eichel. Lucky duck.
When I looked back on Phil Kessel's time in Toronto, like, there are kind of some moments. Yeah, there were definitely moments of frustration with how the team really just it was a flawed team. Let's just be real here with the way it was built and the way it was put together. I wouldn't put that all on Phil Kessel, because he was just brought in to do that. So what I did appreciate, though, was like in that one game against Boston in the playoffs where he finally scored against the Bruins. Like, it was always the one thing he could never do, and he did it in a playoff game, and everyone's just like, oh, amazing. But it's good to see that he is enjoying his he's able to have this streak, and his team's doing quite well, all things considering, with all the injuries and not having their starting goaltender to start for the season. Like, kind of surprised about Vegas this year so far.
Yeah, I mean they're 4-2 so far in the year. So both teams coming in tonight's game with a 4-2 record. The Leafs are making some changes though. They are definitely. I did see Sheldon Keefe said that there is going to be one change made to the lineup from the game against the Winnipeg Jets. Pierre Engvall will be returning to the lineup, and it's not going to be Simmons or Clifford who are coming out for Engvall. It's actually going to be Zach Aston Reese who will skate with the scratches, or I guess he's not skating at all. He'll be up in the press box for the game, watching it, munching on some popcorn. So the lines are as follows: Bunting, Matthews, Marner as their top line. Robertson, Tavares, and Nylander will be the second line. Engvall, Kerfoot, and Yarncroc will reunite each other as the third line. And then Clifford, Camp, and Simmons remain intact as the fourth line for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then the blue line remains the exact same. Engvall coming in and Zach Aston Reese coming out. Any thoughts on that one?
Little surprised with Zach Aston Reese coming out, but then when you can see how well the fourth line did, you're not too surprised. Like that's a line that if it's not doing terribly, you don't change it. Give those guys, reward them for a good effort. So it's like Zach Aston Reese kind of was seen like a guy on the bubble. This is somebody that, everyone was so excited to see, earn a contract because of how well he played during preseason. Just like Nicolas Aube-Kubel, seeing the press box gives you kind of resets a little bit. I didn't expect Zach Aston Reese to play 82 games. Maybe I didn't expect him to be scratched this early in the season, but Engvall, this is an opportunity, right? This is a reset for him too. Yeah. Let's see how he responds.
Yep. Sheldon Keefe did speak at practice, and he said that he liked what Clifford and Simmons brought to the game, so wanted to keep them in the lineup. And then when it came to the decision to go with Engvall over Zach Aston Reese, it was Engvall's speed he felt that they needed going up against a pretty quick and speedy Vegas Golden Knights roster. So, kind of matchup dependent type of stuff when it comes to how he might be going about his extras out there and who plays and who doesn't. But I'll say this, I like it. Actually, I like the competition. Hopefully this kind of creates some sort of internal competition and keeps everyone on their toes and have them in the back of the mind saying, I got to have my best hockey game tonight, or else I could find myself up in the press box tomorrow. So I'm hoping that this is a kick in the ass for all of the bottom six, realistically, whether if it's Engvall, Clifford, Simmons, Aston Reese, Aube-Kubel, Dennis Mulligan, maybe he'll get an opportunity at some point against the lighter, speedier opponent. I feel like this could create some internal competition, which could only benefit Toronto, I think, and it'll allow you to maybe get the best out of your bottom six each and every night, so that they don't get too comfortable. I felt like Aston Reese, Aube-Kubel kind of getting maybe a little comfortable. Or at least I didn't notice them early on in this season, like in the regular season. So I wasn't surprised to see them come out, but it's nice that, the fact that they actually did come out based off poor performance means that Sheldon Keefe isn't worried about making those changes, and it's going to be whoever's playing their best. That's who's going to suit up tonight, and that's something that you gotta like if you're a Leaf fan.
Yeah, just the one time I'm liking that there's a bit of accountability. It's not just
that's the word I was looking for. I was searching for it. I couldn't there.
It's not just this guy. We just signed this guy to a 1-year, $1 million deal. Like we can't take this guy out of the lineup. This guy just earned himself a 2-year, $2.5 million extension. No, it's if you're playing well, you're playing. If you're not playing well, guess what? Especially in the bottom six where there are options. If Matt Murray wasn't if Matt Murray wasn't injured, and if the Leafs had the minimum skaters like they did to start the season, this would be a different story. But because the Leafs have this flexibility, you might as well use it and have this teaching tool to go along with it. You said the Matt Murray injury might actually have been a blessing, and in a way it kind of has been, just because you get those options. Like you get to have, maybe with Jake Muzzin being out, kind of spur off a different options of with the
That's got nothing to do with the Matt Murray injury, though.
Right. So I just think that, this is what happens when you can actually use up your depth in the way that you can, because, you're not just sending all these guys to the Marlies just to be cap compliant. There's guys here who can clearly play in the NHL. Wayne Simmons shows that maybe, to say that his NHL days with the Leafs were over might have been a little premature. But that's because you got to give these guys an opportunity to play. And it's going to be a long season. There's going to be, there's going to be a competition for roster spots when they do have to become cap compliant. So the pressure cooker is going to start turning up now.
Yeah, absolutely. Really quickly, a matchup. I'm just taking a peek at like the stats for these teams so far this season. The penalty kill of the Vegas Golden Knights, not great. 68.8%, 27th in the NHL. So maybe that power play that got going against the Winnipeg Jets, if they can end up with a couple of power plays tonight, keep her going, end up with a one or two more power play goals, that should give them a really good opportunity to try and win tonight's game. Any other comments you want to make tonight? Is there a key that you're kind of looking forward to for the Maple Leafs tonight?
That you just got to watch Jack Eichel. He likes to play against the Leafs, and I'm sensing that he's going to be a guy that's going to want to, it's a new team, but he's very familiar with Toronto. So I'm curious to see what matchup he gets put with, because Vegas gets the choice of who he gets to play against, and
this is true. This is very true. I think, which is also a reason why, Toronto was able to, or why Toronto ended up having their fourth line playing Scheifele so often. They just happen to win those minutes. So maybe you could see it again where they can win those minutes against the Eichel line potentially, if that could happen. All right, Dave. I was just trying to see how many points Eichel has in his career against the Maple Leafs. 14 goals and 9 assists through 17 games against the Maple Leafs in his career. So 14 goals in 17 games Eichel has against the Leafs in his career. Yep, definitely someone that they're going to want to keep an eye on, to say the least. All right, that will do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcasts and platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti. Follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. That'll do it for us today. We'll be back with another episode tomorrow. We will recap the game against the Vegas Golden Knights. Enjoy it. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.